So we've all seen in the news how NVIDIA stock jumped by 15% in just one day, and how this took the company's market cap over $2 trillion. So in this pod, we are not diving into why this is happening, but instead we will focus on the outlook and answer two main questions. Will NVIDIA stock continue growing, and for how long? So to answer these questions, we are going to break our discussion down into three parts. First, we will talk about the GPU's demand outlook. Second, we will talk about the phases of the AI era and NVIDIA's competitive advantage. And then finally, we will give you our take and answer this question. Before watching this video, guys, we will highly advise you to go back and watch the NVIDIA video that we did before, where we predicted that the stock of NVIDIA is going to double back 2 months ago, and that's exactly what happened. And also, if this is your type of content, guys, subscribe, like, and comment the video. So there, let's jump into the GPU demand outlook. So on the GPU demand outlook, so before diving into that, right, it's good to put this whole GPU thing into perspective for people that are not in the tech industry, including me, and I had to do a lot of reading about this. So basically, you have to think of the GPUs in the AI sphere as, the toilet paper when we were back in the pandemic and everybody was running after this. So that's exactly, what is happening now in the AI era, and that's why NVIDIA, which is the number one manufacturer of those GPUs, are making a lot of money. And regarding the demand outlook, basically, what I think is that this is going to last for the next 12 to 18 months. And this is basically because of three reasons. So the first one is that we are currently in the infrastructure building phase. And after that phase, it's going to be difficult to replicate the same amount of revenue. The second reason is about more competitors such as AMD and Intel coming into this space. And then the third one is about the lower cost of manufacturing of GPU that's going to come in as well. So
I think you've made a lot of strong points. I'll disagree with your last point, but I'll address it towards the end as well. The first point you made, infrastructure phase in which we are when we are talking about GPUs, that is correct. We are in the infrastructure phase, and a lot of companies need to have GPUs and servers set up in a way so that a lot of people can actually run application on them. Due to this, my prediction is that it's going to continue over the next 12 to 24 months. Even after that, it's going to plateau, then it's going to start diving down, and the demand for GPUs is going to slow down. Now, competition is going to arrive, of course, when, these GPUs cost so much. The H100, for example, costs about 10,000. And the H200 is going to maybe even cost more than that. Due to this, Intel and AMD can supply their own GPUs and reduce that cost. But the problem with that is that their GPUs are not able to catch up to what the NVIDIA GPUs are able to do. Their performance is not as good. As long as they are able to make it good enough and offer a good price, then they will be able to play this game. But it's going to be very difficult for them. That, again, is going to make NVIDIA stock still perform better in the long run. I'm sorry to say this, but Intel is not really even playing this game, to be honest. Apart from AMD is playing this, because if you look at the stock, Intel stock hasn't moved that much. But NVIDIA and AMD stock are moving, not at the same pace, but they are moving in the right direction. The last part of your argument was that the building or manufacturing GPUs is going to cost less. Actually, manufacturing GPUs, cheapest part of the production of GPUs, NVIDIA spends more than $1 billion just doing research on prototyping these GPUs, coming up with the schematics, designing the integrated circuits. They spend a lot of money, more than $1 billion every year to do this. But as far as ordering the fabrication of the chips themselves, that is going to cost a tenth of that. That's just about 100 million. So the fabrication is the cheapest part. That's why NVIDIA and AMD and most of the chip designers don't want to be in the manufacturing part of this whole thing. For example, AMD doesn't manufacture their own chip. They design it, but they don't manufacture it because the margin for manufacturing is not as good as actually designing the chip, getting it manufactured, and actually selling it to customers. The manufacturing side is profitable, but the revenue that you generate from there and the margin is not as good as selling a $10,000 GPU.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your last point, and it goes back to many industries. So
Right.
typically, the service industries generate more margin than the manufacturing industry.
Right. I
Thing,
wanted to more information about this, right? Couple of things that we are seeing right now is that though it's difficult to get your hands on these GPUs, there are more and more models coming to the market to do even more stuff with AI. So last week we spoke about Sora, which will be generating video, right? So that is gonna be very, very GPU hungry. That Sora model is gonna be very, very GPU hungry. We don't have the GPU. We probably don't have even the power, the electricity to run these GPUs at scale, right? It takes a lot of power to even train these models that we think they are super smart these days, like the GPT-4, GPT 3.5. It took a lot of power to train them. There are other companies that are trying to find alternative to GPUs. If you have any background in hardware design, right, or chip design, in the application specific hardware market, we are seeing emergence of companies like Grok. Grok is a company that Chamat Pilipathia has invested in. And what they are doing is they are building a chip that is mainly designed for LLM work. And they are naming it language processing unit. That's what they are naming it. That is an application specific hardware that was designed for this chip to only process AI work that has to do with LLM. So it can generate video, it can generate images, right? We are going to start seeing stuff like that. That is also going to reduce NVIDIA dominance. Google has another version of this, which is less application dependent, which is called Tensor Processing Unit. And the guys from Segment from Google, one of the leads there is the person who is running Grok right now. When they actually posted something on Twitter about how fast their LPUs can run Llama 7B, meant the speed compared to GPT-4 is
mm,
something else. But again, those models are not very intelligent. They are not as intelligent as GPT-4. So
I see.
again, the output is not great, but the speed is there.
On these alternative GPUs, right? I think it's quite similar to what happened during the dot-com era, where many companies, were building the infrastructure that would be use the applications, right? And back then, Cisco was the leading company. And that's why a lot of people these days are comparing Cisco stock back then
Right.
to Nvidia's one, right? And what happened to Cisco back then was that they built a lot of complex servers. I mean, not that complex, but they built a lot of servers that, the internet was kind of supposed to run on. At a certain point in that era, a lot of companies realized that actually you don't need all that to run the internet. And
Right.
then they use other cheaper alternatives to Cisco's product. And that's how Cisco didn't become, I mean, they are big, but at that time, everybody thought they were going to be, the biggest company, in the next decade or so. Are we sure these are going to be just alternatives? And these are not just going to kind of take over what NVIDIA is doing? Or maybe they are going to come up with something that's cheaper, is more efficient, and doesn't require all these times to build. And then everybody's just going to jump on that wagon, and things are going to just stay that way, and Nvidia is going to fall down.
There is a case to be made for both sides of this argument, right? where we are comparing NVIDIA to Cisco during the dot-com era. Another case where NVIDIA is going to dominate for a longer period of time. The first case where we are comparing NVIDIA to Cisco is that these companies that are producing alternative to GPUs or hardware specific applications actually deliver on their promise. What that means is that NVIDIA has been working on AI chips for a very, very, very long time. There is a saying, I started my career as a hardware engineer, and there is a saying for hardware engineers is that hardware is hard, right? So it's very difficult to get people who are very good at doing this and actually designing very good chips and manufacturing them. It's very difficult. Because NVIDIA has very long lead time on doing this,
Mm.
it's going to be hard to disrupt them. That's one thing. Again, up to these new companies, Intel, AMD, Grok, Google, Amazon, to be able to come up with an alternative to GPUs or a hardware specific solution. Only then NVIDIA can be disrupted.
Really, that's exactly what I had in mind, right? Regarding what NVIDIA does and how that's different from what Cisco was doing back then. Because if you compare how to, make a server comparing to what NVIDIA has done, it's very different, right? Because NVIDIA has been doing this. We explained this in our previous video.
Right.
How they started, and just the whole thing was for gaming,
Yeah.
and then
I
they.
think
Mm,
I would like to also add that NVIDIA is kind of foreseeing this issue as well. They are making more investment into their cloud offerings. Because there is inavailability of GPUs, today, actually during their last call, they are saying that now you can pay about 5,000 per month to access their GPUs over the cloud. So
okay.
you can run anything that you want to run because you can buy physically build the architecture, right? So you can
Interesting.
kind of rent the GPUs from NVIDIA directly, or you can go through Microsoft or the other guys to rent it. And there are small
Mm,
startups that are also doing this, but still,
mm.
it's deflationary.
We were going to talk about the phases as well, right? So for the phases, I think they are very important for everybody to understand, because they put the whole thing into perspective regarding demand of GPUs. Similarly to the dot-com era, the first phase for this whole AI thing is just to build the infrastructure. And that's what, NVIDIA is doing now. And they are leading that. They have, I don't know, more than 90% market share now. And that's what we are doing now. And then after that, what we are going to see is the application building. And I can even argue that the application building has, already started, because we've seen some kind of toy kind of applications
Right.
out there, but we haven't seen any real application. I haven't seen any company that's using AI to make 100 millions of revenue. And I think that's something very, very important in this, because if we are just building the infrastructure and then the applications that we are going to use, there is nothing there. This whole thing
Right.
can collapse anytime.
This is a perfect picture. If someone is going to argue the Cisco and NVIDIA comparison, exactly where we can look at it that way. This whole thing, it has become a hype of some sort. Throw AI in the mix and you get a lot of money from the VCs, right? But who is actually making money? Based on the investment that we are giving to this, who is actually making money out of this at that same rate? When we talk about cost of revenue, or when we talk about investment, who is actually generating revenue proportional to the investment they are making into AI? We have to ask this question.
Actually, right, it doesn't need to be even proportional. Is not good, because you don't want to invest 1 million in something and get 1 million. You just broke even, right? You don't want.
I know, but we haven't even seen that. That's the problem.
Yeah, and for this thing to be sustainable, we'll need something around, like, I don't know, 5 to even
10x.
10x
Yes.
of application and value add to really see the benefit of this. So that's a little bit of doubt a lot of people, have. I mean, me personally, I have it because I'm not in the tech. You are in the tech, so
I have that doubt too, right? And we
okay.
said we spoke about this again a little bit in the NVIDIA video that we made
Mhm,
a couple of months ago. Ultimately, people who
mhm.
are going to win this war or win maybe the application war, right? Or the application phase of this whole AI saga, the companies are going to be companies that have proprietary data. That's where it's gonna stop.
Hmm. Do you know what I would say? I would say that the companies that are going to win, for sure, they are not going to be. the likes of Google, Microsoft, and those companies. Because I'm going back to the .com era again. Nobody saw Facebook coming. The other companies that leverage the internet heavily coming. So it's gonna be something new that nobody expected. Just a company coming from nowhere, and then in like 3 to 4 years or 5 years, boom, they are.
Mm, I
That
will
I
have
mean
to
that.
argue that a little bit.
Why?
The reason being that a lot of investment, tech gurus like Amazon, they have done a good job at convincing every developer that they cannot host their own database, they cannot host their own servers. I don't know why. I host my own stuff. I'm ready to do the hard work. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I'm ready to do the hard work, host my own application, and don't have to depend 100% on AWS or Azure. But in our community today, status quo is to build something and put it in the cloud. So a lot of people have decided in our community or in our field, when they build something, they will just host it on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. This is the reason why even NVIDIA today is building a cloud business. Whoever is going to even come out of nowhere, that company that is going to win all these things, they are going to go with that business model. They are going to try to build a cloud offering. But hear me out. Today, all of these big three, meaning Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, are investing in this. And NVIDIA, they are all investing in building this cloud infrastructure. The status quo is that when you build, don't build on your own, build it in a cloud provider. So that is not going to go away. The Amazon $1 trillion valuation is based on AWS. That's
I
not going to
am
change.
I'm not disagreeing with what you said. So basically what you are saying is no matter what, these companies are still going to make money and benefit from this. But what
That
I'm
is true.
saying is they are not going to be the face of it. Another company is going to come and build this whole thing. I mean the application that's going to make or add a lot of value, and maybe they can host it on the cloud, and then
Right,
the
right.
Amazon will get some money, but they are not going to be the main face of it,
The
and they are not going
creator
to be the
of,
one
yes,
exactly.
yes,
That's
yes,
what I'm
yes.
saying.
Yes, somewhat that is true. Somewhat that is true. Because again, you have to look at this, right? Google has YouTube. YouTube has a lot of data. Google can use that data. And I say, if you look at the way this AI, LLM, generative AI stuff work, is the person who has the most data, the richest data, the most unique data, that's the person that is going to win this war. Look at Reddit, for example. They just signed an agreement with Google, $1 million agreement, so that Google can have access to Reddit data. This is what is going to happen. If you are an AI scientist or software engineer or even a data engineer, and you know how to go and find unique data, clean it up, and distribute it, I would suggest you start doing that because some money is going to be generated from there. Because ultimately, and I say it again, the people who have data, custom data, unique data, they are the one who are going to benefit the most from the current generative AI craziness.
So yeah, let's wrap it up then, and answer the question. I mean, on my side, right, what I'm going to say is that the Nvidia stock is going to continue growing, not at the same crazy rate.
Yeah,
Those 15% jump a day,
right.
I think that's not going to happen anymore. But still going to keep growing at a slower pace for the next 12 to 18 months. That's mainly because of two reasons. So first one, as we said before, we are still in the phase one of the AI era. Their services is going to be highly needed till the end of that phase. And then after that, it's going to decrease quite a bit. And then the second reason is because of the competition. Now, analysts are estimating that their market share is around 90% in the GPU manufacturing side of things. And they are saying that in 2 to 3 years, that's going to drop to like 60%. Those are the two reasons why I think their stock is going to keep growing at a little slower pace for the next 12 to 18 months on my side.
I'm not going to disagree with anything you've said. I think I also agree that the next 2 years, they are going to slowly grow, continue growing. And after that, things are going to start taking a nosedive. But remember, we haven't answered this question: who is actually making money from AI? I want to see that person. I want to see the companies making money from AI. So if you know a company making money from AI, write it in the comments.
In the comments, and then
And
perhaps
like the video. And
we'll cover
subscribe.
that. We'll cover that in the next video, maybe if you do that. So yeah,
Right.
thank you guys.
Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the content. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.